Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, we have probably one of the biggest activists in Oklahoma, if not the biggest, from my opinion. This guy's done everything. He does protests, he's done initiative petitions, put together speeches at the Capitol, he does everything. I swear this guy is a doer. And it's such a thrill to have him on the show, Mark Faulk, right here on Across the Desk.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I mean, I am going to argue a little bit with that because I know a lot of really dedicated people, you know, in the indigenous movements in Oklahoma and the Black rights movement, and there are a lot of really dedicated people. So I'm proud to be one of them, you know.
Oh yes,
so,
Mark, you definitely are. And yeah, I didn't mean to say that you're the only one. There's definitely a lot of other people out there, and this isn't a one-person show. It would never happen with one person. But yeah, man, you really are the doer. You're a doer. You're the top 20% of people that actually do stuff.
And people tell me, like, learn to take a compliment, but I don't deflect because I'm just like, oh, I'm trying to be modest. I deflect because if I'm out there by myself, nothing happens. Yeah. This really is a collective. Even if sometimes there's hundreds of us and sometimes there's 8 of us. It takes the multiple voices to bring change. Any one of us can be like, I'm out here doing this by myself and nobody cares. Yeah. So it really, that's what I mainly want people to understand is everything we do is a collective, and we need all the voices. Even if you can't go out actively and publicly, be calling the people that are involved, calling the politicians, calling the elected officials, and spread the word on social media or whatever way you can contribute, you can make a difference. And that's kind of my underlying message to everything I do.
So, and there's really a lot of other activists out there that are with you and doing stuff every day. And speaking of current events and everything else, what you got going on right now as far as your activism is concerned, Mark?
So for about the last 8 or 9 years, I've been deep diving after spending a decade doing Wall Street stuff, book and worked on a documentary in New York about that. I kind of got more into justice reform because I started working on a documentary that was going to be a feature film about 8 years ago. That project grew and grew and grew and grew, and it's now being edited into a 5-part series, documentary series, and it's called Voices in the Jailhouse. But because of that, and it's based in Oklahoma, from the story of Larry Yarborough, who was a black man in Kingfisher, who in a very racist system in Kingfisher got life without parole for possession and spent nearly 30 years in prison for possession
of how much?
An ounce of cocaine.
An ounce of cocaine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we dug into it, we found out interviewing ex-jurors and family members, someone who was an ex-son-in-law of the county sheriff, and all of these people were like, oh, not only should he have not gone to jail for life for a low-level drug offense, he didn't do it. I'm 100% sure that it was planted in his house. They were after him for a long time.
They were after him for a long time.
That's not uncommon in the justice system. So because of that, I've become very aware of that, and more recently, about 2 years ago, from the George Floyd killing that just shoved everything into the national forefront and spotlight, kind of, I got involved in some of the protests. I was involved for 2.5 minutes on the first night and got arrested that day, you know, the very first day. Not intentionally. It was. I don't generally get arrested for the fun of it, but I did. And when that happened, it just shone a spotlight, and we began to protest downtown next to the county courthouse. And they decided at some point, we've heard that it was a judge, I don't know if it was Judge Elliott or who, he said it wasn't him, but a judge said, we don't like them having their little meetings outside in the courtyard, so they tried to pass a resolution to force us away from the county courthouse, even though the county boundaries only extend to the front door, because it's Oklahoma City.
Yeah, exactly. Downtown,
that brought
zero lot lines on those. buildings down there.
That brought us inside, and when we came into the county commissioners meeting, we then discovered at that point that, oh, there's all kinds of monetary cons going on here. So about a year and a half ago, we eventually, through a lot of very rowdy protests, forced them to give back $25 million in CARES Act
big
money.
news.
In CARES Act money that should have all gone to people who were
like small businesses is what it was for, so that they could pay their payroll and everything else if the pandemic slowed everything down, like it did in 2020 for a few months.
That's right. So when that happened, their goal was, we're going to take all $40 million and put it in the jail, and we were like. And see, that's kind of a point here, is this scheme, it doesn't matter whether it's Wall Street, whether it's at the county level of our government, whether it's municipal, whether it's now, whether it's 50 years ago, whether it's probably 1,000 years ago. It's the same scheme. It's all monetary and
that's what I was talking about. Yeah, monetary and greed, because that's what they're after, because those people at that jail trust, now that you didn't let them have that $40 million or whatever, now they've got a new scheme where they're going to take what maps money from city and areas they don't even, the county doesn't even have control over.
Yeah, and I'll try to, because this is a short segment, I'll try to summarize this, but literally what happened and what I can't get the media to cover. They've done a good job of covering. As an example, we thought it was 13 deaths last year at the jail. Apparently it was 16.
16
Two deaths at the
jail.
County jail, which makes us the deadliest jail in America.
It does.
And that's insane.
And they had, what, 2 or 3 in a week or two just here in the last week or two.
Yes. At the rate we're going now, we're on target for 30 to 40 deaths.
That's lack of leadership. That's lack of management ability. It's lack of training.
That's right. All of those things. And they've been trying to sell this to us as it's just the jail. If we build a bigger jail, so suddenly, and I'll give a very short backstory. So the Chamber of Commerce, about 4 years ago, started, and I'll answer the question, but ask yourself why, started what was called the Criminal Justice Advisory Council, or CJAC, CJAC. They, in turn, now their chair is Clay Bennett, who is the owner of the OKC Thunder, who we've given $500 million to in subsidies, and also who is a gay lord.
We gave him $500 million in subsidies, and we didn't even build him a new stadium or nothing. They got the Knox Convention Center. And
we supplement their salaries, everything, all of these things. So he's made plenty of money off of taxpayers. He becomes the chair of CJAC, and literally they don't hide that this is started by the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. Roy Williams, who's the president, sits in for Clay Bennett when he's not available, and it's on their website. So if you go to the CJAC website, they say, started by the Chamber of Commerce. Go to the Chamber of Commerce website, and what is our mission statement? Our job is to find economic opportunities for our members in Oklahoma City. So now we know this is why they did it. So they did that, put rich people on it, and a handful of mostly sheriffs and people who are on the prosecution side, 1 or 2, I don't want to call them token people, but a couple of people that they're like, oh look, here's a couple of people who, look, we're fair and balanced. No, you're not. So on their side, they say, we want to reduce mass incarceration. We want to instead do mental health issues. That's a separate issue. We want to deal with homelessness and poverty, because if you break it down, over 80% of the people in the jail are not convicted.
They're not convicted.
So we're not talking criminals. We're talking people who have been charged a lot of times low level. They didn't pay some fines. They missed a court date because they were on probation. They just can't afford bail.
I want to talk a little bit about the Democratic Party and some of the things I'm seeing in Oklahoma. Like, we've really lost some numbers when it comes to registration and everything else. Is there any ideas you have on what we need to do about the Democratic Party here in Oklahoma, getting more people interested in it, voting, registering to vote?
I mean, we have to get out in the streets and do that, but if you go back and look at how the Republican Party took over Oklahoma, they started at the same thing we're talking about. That's why I say it's all interconnected. They started at a municipal level.
Yeah, they started at the bottom. That's where the roots are.
So
that's what
we need Democrats.
That's
right. We need Democrats. Let's say Oklahoma flips Oklahoma County. We elect 2 good county commissioners. We elect a good district attorney, and we have some good candidates running for district
even county
attorney.
Clerk, assessor, all that stuff.
Exactly. But if we flip those 3 seats, district attorney, 2 county commissioner seats, and then Judge Elliott resigned. He's the judge who does a lot of the harsh sentencing and high bails. So, in other words, make Oklahoma City successful as a model, and then other communities begin to look to you and go, wow, that actually worked.
Yeah, that's really it. You know, because whenever you look at things like the Libertarian Party, for instance, they always run somebody at the top of the ticket, and they never win anything, not even close to 2% of nothing. It's because they have no one underneath them at those lower races out there knocking doors. Because inevitably, when people vote for the Democrat down ticket, they'll probably vote for the guy up ticket too sometimes.
That's right.
And they're just helping get those people out. And if you don't have that support underneath, you're not going to get anybody out.
Or if you're, as an example, Sarah Banna, one of the amazing activists in Oklahoma, incredibly dedicated, running for city council in Midwest City right now. So if you're, I think hers is Ward 5, if I remember right, but look up Sarah Banna for Midwest City. If she gets elected, people will, by default, love her because she is so dedicated to the people, street level. If they go, I never voted for a Democrat, I voted for, and those are non-partisan seats. So some people actually look a little more at the candidate, a little less at affiliation, even though it still factors in. If they elect her, and then they go, wow, she's fighting her ass off for us.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll look at some other Democrats. So you have to start there, and you see positive change.
And that's really the way to get it back. The way to get more Democrats registered to vote and everything else. To start locally, start smaller, build those roots. Because that's really what they did. The Republicans came in and cut off the root system.
School board,
you got to do that.
City council, county commissioner, low-level ones. Some of these small communities, you can win a school board seat or a city council seat for less than 200 votes.
Exactly. Or less than $200 a campaigning in some cases.
You knock the right 150 doors and you win. That's crazy. That's it. So
it is. Even here, like War Acres, I could do Ward 1 in no time. There's only like 500-600 people total, or whatever it is that you'd have to, total.
A libertarian, Chris Powell, got elected in Bethany. So as you said, that's where you start to pick up those things. And I would just tell people, go and run for office, but start right there. Start at a low-level office, or go find someone and support them and get them in. And then let those positive changes that we're trying to enact from a county level on down, let them permeate into the psyche of society. And then society goes, why is Oklahoma City thriving so well? Why is Midwest City thriving? Why is it? Oh, they elected some progressive, and by progressive I just mean people who, we're called this radical bad name progressive, but it really is just, we want all people to be treated with dignity.
It's for the people. It's not for some rich guy sitting in Galardia. That's not what it's for. It's for the people. And that's the difference between progressive and the conservatives today. If you want to, they're not conserving much except for the millions for their buddies.
And kind of as a parting thing, though, and I'm not defending Republicans here, but I'm saying that Republicans, I don't believe, are being represented by their own elected officials, because nobody really wants what Kevin Cowley wants. Nobody wants to oppress and monetize and create a giant cash cow for rich people off the bodies of the most vulnerable citizens.
Not even conservatives want that.
Not even conservatives. And I don't say that like it's a weird anomaly. It's just that if you break down the core of it and go, I don't want my cousin, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew to be thrown in jail because they're struggling with schizophrenia, which I've had family members struggle with that and lost family members to that. I don't want them treated like criminals. I want them treated like human beings.
Yeah.
And if they become
Exactly,
homeless
man.
because of these other
These guys
issues,
they have families, they have moms that love them, and probably
That's
brothers and sisters and everything
That's right.
else. You
That's
know,
right.
kids sometimes.
So,
you know, everything. These are real people.
Our pitch is that everybody should look at it from that perspective of compassion, and also in the long run, is it better for society and our economy, economically for taxpayers, to treat the root of the problem as opposed to criminalizing the problem. So it just becomes a big revolving door of the same people in and out of that prison, while the richest people in Oklahoma and Oklahoma County just count the money.
Count the money. Yeah. Mark, about all the time I have for now. Today, that was a pretty good session. I think we got about 20 minutes, really. But
I tried to cover a lot in a short
fine,
period.
I know,
Yeah.
you know, got a 15-minute show, and that's what we do. You know, sometimes it goes a little long. I try to hit there, but man, I got to say thank you, Mark, so much for coming.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it having you on the show and talking what you talk. It needs to be heard. It really does.
Yeah.
And what you do it's amazing. It's amazing the energy you have to do it. It's something that only really Mark Faulk could do.
I run on fumes sometimes, I'll admit, and I go home and take a nap sometimes.
Well, your activism inspires people like me to be activists too.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate, because what you do is help get the word out there too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Everybody can have a role in this.
I want to say
I
this.
damn sure can't do it.
Red State Radio. No, you're on Red State Radio. It's Red State Revolt on Red State Radio, right? Are you still on Red State Radio?
Yes. It's actually a company called TogiNet out of Tyler, Texas.
Okay.
We started out being Red State Radio. I changed it to Red State Revolt when Trump got elected.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, fuck it, we're revolting.
We're revolting.
I tried not to swear through the whole segment, and now
Me
I did.
neither. I
So,
sometimes I say bullshit.
but yeah, it's not. It is about a revolt, but a revolt of the people, and that's what we all can, all contribute. So,
Yeah.
so
Man,
thank
your
you.
podcast is awesome, I gotta
Thank you.
say. And I
Appreciate
know a
it.
lot of people have heard of that podcast
Yeah.
hear it about Across the Desk with Kit Fairchild.
Yeah.
Because that thing's out there. You've had that for how long now?
Since
Long time.
2014.
2014.
And I did financial scheme radio before with another back in 2005 up through 2010 or something. So I've done it off and on for a long time. And this week I have Nadine Gallagher on, who's a local educator, big in the Democratic Party, from New Jersey. So she's incredibly outspoken.
When do you do your show? What time?
Every Thursday from 5 to 6.
Every Thursday
I
from 5 to
live
6.
stream when I can. Sometimes it's just on the radio, but if I live stream, it's on Facebook, either on Red State Revolt or on my page, Mark Faulk. So, all right.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for showing
I
up.
appreciate it. Absolutely.
Thank you. We'll see you guys later.